This is Marcia Weekes, and tonight we are coming to you live from Barbados, and this is the Watch Out My Children Caribbean edition. This is our third presentation, and we thought it was important to do this presentation another time because it had been such a great strength for us here in Barbados when we decided that we wanted to do our march and rally, which took place last 2 Saturdays ago, actually, and was very, very successful here in Barbados. And we want to thank those in the Caribbean who came and supported us. So we weren't here physically, but believe it or not, we felt you. We felt that energy. And right now in the Caribbean, we are all bracing for some kind of storm. There's Brett right there on our heels in Barbados. We are in a storm watch at the moment. We're seeing a lot of wind and some rain. We've seen a house was destroyed. We've seen sea swells coming over walls and lots of things happening. People are battening down their homes. They're buying groceries, buying a lot of supplies, etc. And as I watch us here in the Caribbean, it's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as well. I couldn't help but reflect on what is happening morally to us, what is happening spiritually to us, what is happening culturally to us. And a lot of us, we're going along our way as though nothing is happening. It's almost as though we're unaware that they are seeking to bring in this transgender education in our school system. We see what's happening in the US. We see it happening in Europe. We see it happening in Canada. And we are here in the Caribbean saying, hold up, hold up, hold up, not so fast, not so fast. And tonight I have with me Mr. Cassius Stuart, who is here on with me already in the studio. And I'm excited to have him on because, as I said earlier, he brought such strength from Bahamas to us here in Barbados. We had his videos on repeat, sharing it on WhatsApp because it gave us a lot of strength in our pushback here. And they are planning a pushback event in the Bahamas. And so I want Mr. Stewart to tell us a little bit about what's happening in the Bahamas. Welcome, Mr. Stewart.
Marcia, how are you? How are you?
Listen, I am doing wonderful. I'm excited for you guys. I just wish I could be there. I wish I could be there.
You did send Fred. Fred is here.
Yes.
So you do.
Wonderful.
Barbados does have representation here, so we thank you so much for that. Listen, we are excited. We are really, really excited. I've been getting calls from all of the churches, and they're saying that all of their parishioners must be there at the rally, and so
Wow.
the churches look like they're coming out in full force. We're getting from all corners of the country that they're going to be there, and so every political persuasion will be there, and so we're just going to have overwhelming support. We even had, so I don't know if they were joking, but the LGBT community said they want to come too to protect the children.
Ah, that's interesting. I must say that we had someone from the LGBTQ community who was at our rally because they are against the this transgender education of the children in Barbados, and they were at the rally, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so we told them, come at your own risk. There are people who are charged and people who don't necessarily want to be associated. But, for us, it's about making sure that we hold the line. We have to build a wall. This nonsense is not in the schools in the Bahamas. I just want to repeat that. But we are building the wall so that no government now or ever will be able to say that they want to put this in our schools. And so while some of the Caribbeans may not be affected by it, you have to build a wall and show the governments that the people of your country will not stand for it. Because if you say nothing, they will assume that you are accepting it and it's okay. And so we cannot let it happen. I think the boogery laws in the Bahamas were quietly passed with nobody really knowing what was going on. And of course, they do it piece by piece by piece by piece. And so for us in the Bahamas, we are holding this rally to let our government know that never, ever, ever, ever think about it. Because in the Bahamas, the B in the Bahamas is for big man, not for batty man. We don't
Mm,
want that here. We don't want that in the Bahamas. We don't want that nowhere around our children. We don't want indoctrination. We will fight against that, and we have to be aggressive. What I've realized is that that community is very aggressive, and
mhm,
they're very ferocious. And
mhm,
so, in order for us to win, we got to be 10 times more aggressive and ferocious than they are. And
mhm,
so, for me, the reason why I make a lot of noise and I row a lot is because I know how ferocious they are. And we have to be strong when it comes to preaching one, the message that we want to say no, but also the message that, we believe in God. We believe in what God says. We believe in family. We believe in family values, and we are prepared to go to our deaths saying that this is what we believe. We will never surrender. We will never retreat. This
mhm.
is our stance here in the Bahamas, and we hope that Barbados pick it up. Because listen, I told the news media today that the Bahamas does not have a strong birth rate. In fact, I think we almost have a negative birth rate. Most families now only having one child, and so on. So it's not really, we don't have a lot of healthy birth rates. So the projection for population growth in the Bahamas is very slim and looks very dim in the future. But if all the girls turn into boys and all the boys turn into girls, the country is doomed. And so
Mm,
we have to fight against that, and we have to protect the future of the country. I suspect Barbados have the same similar issues, because most of us in the Caribbean, we have similar issues. And so
yes.
we got to protect the family structure, the nucleus family, the mother and the father with children. We got to protect that. There's two daddies and two mummies. That is crazy. That don't make no sense to me. It never will, and I will never accept it. And I don't
Mhm,
want it to be accepted in the Caribbean. I don't want it to be accepted in the Bahamas, because that's not the original design. The original design was man and woman, and anything else is a fraud, is a fake, and it's counterfeit. And I will not stand for it. I will not stand for men transitioning to women by mutilating their bodies, cutting off their penises just to make themselves feel good. That is crazy. We will call it like it is. We are not interested in pronouns. The only pronouns I know, I am he, and what else? I him, and nothing else. Don't give me no they, damn, that. I ain't into that. I ain't into that.
Mrs. Stewart, you said something. There are two things that you said, and I wrote it down because I believe that there is a very, very special grace on you to deal with this issue. You have the voice. It's almost like when you speak, you are speaking into the belly of the Caribbean. That's how I feel it. You said something about building a wall. And before I came on the program, Mrs. Stewart, because there is Brett is beating down, trying to beat down on Barbados, especially the north of the country. And there's a
Mhm.
particular place there. There's a wall that is there. But now what's happening is that in the north, the because of the sea swells, the water is coming up over the wall,
Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
means the wall was not high enough for the storm. The sea swells, the water is coming over and going into the restaurant that is
Wow.
there. And
Wow.
so when you talked tonight, when you mentioned tonight about building a wall, I couldn't help but think about that imagery, really, for the Caribbean. You said we must build a wall so that this sea swell, or this tsunami of gender education, and gender dysphoria, and gender, all of these kinds of things that they're bringing in now with this kind of education, that it doesn't come over and sweep us away. How do we build this wall? You're doing it in Barbados and Bahamas. How does the Caribbean build this wall?
we we have to get the people involved. The people of Barbados, the people of Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad, Grenada, the Bahamas, throughout the region, we have to speak with one voice. We know that the vice president of the United States dropped $110 million on the Caribbean. And we know that came with stipulations. We know that that came with demands, and that most of the demands has to do with human rights in the LGBT community. But we have to let her know that, listen, the people who are elected are only a few, 40 the most. They don't control the majority. The majority of people say no. And what America is going against is the very same thing that they preach for the last 200 years, where government by the people, for the people, and of the people. It's no longer that. It's you do what we say you do. And so even though the majority of us say no to LGBT, they still trying to override it. But we have to send them a sound message that, listen, in the Caribbean, we are prepared to give our life for what we believe. And we say no to this indoctrination. And the wall means that, listen, we will do whatever it takes to make sure that we resist this. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we are the last generation to hold this line before they consume all our children. We are
Mm.
the last one, Marcia. After us, there's no one else to protect them. And so we have to do what we got to do to seal this wall, to make sure that when our children in Barbados grow up, that they understand what gender is, male, female. They understand what marriage is between a man and a woman. That we dispel this notion that it's okay to be homosexual and lesbianism. That is not okay. And I know they've gotten us to believe that, oh, adults will do what they have to do, so let adults do it. So they program us to say these things, okay? But they're not programming me, because I know that that lifestyle is wrong. And I will speak to it the way it is. Because what I realize is that while we fight for this indoctrination, against this indoctrination, the root cause of the indoctrination is the homosexual lifestyle. That's the root cause. So you cannot fix the problem without going to the root. The root cause.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say, okay, y'all could be homosexual and that's fine, then the problem will always exist, because they're always coming after our children. See, they realize that our generation, they cannot touch us, because we've already been programmed to believe in the standard of marriage and family. But our children doesn't understand that. So they're going after our children in books, teaching young boys how to perform fellatio on each other, teaching young boys about anal sex, teaching young girls about masturbation. And I'm talking about from grade 4 and 4-year-old kids. This is what's going on in schools in Canada and in America now. Most of the Caribbean, they don't even know about this. And this is why we have to let them know what is coming, because the storm is coming, but they don't know the intensity of the storm. And
Mm-hmm.
this intensity of the storm is going to wipe out everything we taught our children. There are no more rules. They now have a new movement, Marcia. The new movement is adult that are attracted to minors.
Yes, the minor attracted people.
Right.
And wow, that is
That is demonic. And so we have to call it like it is. It is demonic. It is
yes.
sick. It is sick. Because if you think that it's okay for you to sleep with a 3 or 4-year-old, and because that's you attracted to minor, you're a pedophile and you're sick, you need to go to jail. And so we cannot cater to these people, because these people are unrepentant. These people don't care. They don't care about our God. They don't care about our morals. And
Mm-hmm.
they say to us, we could take our morals and go to hell. But I
Mm-hmm.
say to you all that we will not give in to them. We will not give in to that lifestyle, because that lifestyle is not of God. That is not normal. Because we put
Mm-hmm.
all them on an island by themselves, what happens? All them will die out.
They will die out. They will,
All
Mrs. Stewart. There's something there that you said, and as I said, as I am I'm actually writing as you are speaking, and you said something about being aggressive, and I want to pick you up on that, because I found like here in Barbados, I find that sometimes some of our leaders that are at the front of this of this pushback were involved in building this wall. Sometimes it seems to me that we are doing a lot of pandering, and I like you, I experience them. They message me, they're very rude, they're aggressive, they're harsh, and then we on the other hand are trying to say, okay, let us show them the love of God, and let us show them, and so how do we marry all of that? You're saying that we need to be as aggressive as they are.
we have to.
Can you speak to that, please?
Let me speak to two issues. part of the problem is most of the leaders in the church in the Caribbean and throughout the region, and also political leaders, they are numb on this issue. One, because they figure they're going to lose something. The LGBT community has a lot of power, and
Yes.
you have to rid yourself of everything if you want to join this fight.
Mm,
I told them when I started this, I don't own no house. I don't own no car. My children, when they were born, I gave them all back to God, so I don't own them. The life I live in, I don't own that. So what you coming for? You can't take nothing from me. I don't own nothing.
mm-hmm.
See? And for me, though, because I believe that I'm in the kingdom, I don't have no opinion. I can't have an opinion on whether or not homosexuality is right or wrong. The king says it's wrong, it's wrong. But I really believe, though, that for us, though, we have to be ferocious, because when you believe that you are in the kingdom of God, you have to stand up for what is right. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at throughout all history, when it comes to the early church, they suffered and they gave their life for what they believe. There comes a time when we may have to do the same thing. The question is,
Mm,
do we love our life more than we love what we're fighting for? And that's
mm-hmm.
the question. We love material things, so we don't want them to take our little church. We don't want them to take our money. We don't want them
Yes.
to take this from us. And so we hold on to these things and we be quiet. The question is, we already old, so we might as well go out fighting like a champion, because we saw Jesus anyway. And so, we might as well, you know what I mean, Marcia? I mean, what are
Yeah.
we holding on to? I mean, it's okay
Yeah.
to have nice houses, but really and truly, you can be dead in the next 20, 30 years anyway. So you might as well.
Anyway, Mrs. Stewart, you're speaking my language, because I'm listening to you, and I said, this is why whenever you speak, it resonates with me. It literally hits me in my belly, because I am of the opinion, like I say it all the time. I have nothing to lose. All I have to be is to be obedient to what I need to do in my generation, and I have zero to lose, and I will stand up and I will fight for the children. So I love what you're saying, build a wall, and you're saying that we need to be aggressive about it.
You
We
have to.
cannot You have to be aggressive. So can you talk to the rest of the Caribbean, and what is it that you want to say to them about this march that is happening on Saturday, actually, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at RR Bailey Park, right there in the Bahamas? What are they to expect, and what do you expect from us here in the Caribbean?
Well, I expect that the Caribbean, from our march on Saturday, from our rally on Saturday, that we replicate this rally around the Caribbean. Even if this thing is not in your island, we want to be able to send a message to the government. Don't even think about it, because our children comes first. We
Mm,
have to send a message. Like I said, this is not being taught in our schools. And we still do have a lot of strong Christian value systems in our government. We see the wall starting to come down, and this is why we're trying to repair the wall and strengthen the wall and build the wall higher, because we have to let the government know, the prime minister, the deputy prime minister, the foreign affairs minister, whoever, all of them, to listen. In the Bahamas, this is what we believe. In Jamaica, this is what we believe. In Barbados, this is what we believe. And we will not compromise on what we believe. We elect you to govern our affairs, not to control what we believe morally. And so
mm-hmm.
we have to understand that legislation, I always want to tell people that, when people decide to live their life, whether it be homosexuals or lesbian, privately, then God judged them privately.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute the government decides to enact laws to make this a national event, then God judges the nation. And I tell them, Cassius Stuart will not be judged for two men who don't know what they is in the closet. I am not going to be judged for them. I got my own issues to be judged for, but I am not going to be judged for them. So don't make homosexuality or lesbianism legal in the Bahamas or in the Caribbean. The minute the government makes it legal, that's when God judges the entire nation. Now, if they decide to do it privately, God judges them privately. But the minute your prime minister make that a legal national event or act, that's when God judges everybody in Barbados.
Yeah.
And
Well,
everybody
well,
in
well. In December, on December 12th, I mean, our Bugri law was shut down from the books. It's no longer criminal. They removed this section. This is section 9 of our Sexual Offences Act was removed, and it was removed by lawyers throughout the region, and they were able to get funding and assistance from international agencies. And they are now saying that, they're going after as many of the buggery laws in the country as possible. In fact, we're going to talk to Shefflorn Ballantyne because they've just concluded the hearing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to remove the law. But Mrs. Stewart, a very important thing that happened in Barbados, I don't know if you're aware of it. In striking down Section 9 of our Sexual Offences Act on December 12th, 2022, they also removed Section 12. And what Section 12 was, it was a piece of the legislation that protected children from pedophilia. So right now they remove both laws, the sections of the law. They remove Section 9 and they remove Section 12. And I'm saying to Barbadians, how can we sit down and be so quiet about this? Because what it does, it opens up our children to these people that call the MAP, they call them the something attracted
crazy people.
Yeah, those people, right, that are attracted to children. It means, therefore, that our children are now, Mrs. Stewart, wide open because that law was also removed. The judge struck it down as well. And so these are some of the things that we have to stay on top of it. I don't know if were you aware of that?
No, I was not. I know that one of the things that we are planning to do is we're going to present draft legislation at our rally to present to the government, one, to ensure that gender is male and is what you're born male and born female. That's what gender is. So we want to codify that in our law. We also want to codify that marriage is between a male man and a female woman. And then we're also going to present law making sure that we can protect our children. And so we're going to use the rally to be able to say to our government, these are some of the legislations that we want passed in our parliament. And we're going to get the approval of the 50,000 people we got there. And we're going to submit that to Parliament and say, this is what our government, our people want. We want to make sure that everybody know that when you come to the Bahamas, don't come, but you want cis and this. I don't know what them cis word is anyway. We are man and woman, and that's how it was in the beginning. That's how it will be in the end. And so we need to make sure that's codified in the law. But you in Barbados, we have to make sure, send a strong message. See, your issue is your government has a majority. And because they don't have an opposition, they see that they could do whatever they want without any resistance. The challenge is now is that your opposition is the people. Yes. You need the people on your side to say to your government that, no, this is not what's going to happen, and this is what we want. And the only way politicians respond is they respond to people. They respond to numbers. If they see you have the numbers, then they begin to become frightened. And so for you, you have to be able to say, this is the law that we want, and this is the law that we want you to enforce. And that's what we're going to do in the Bahamas on Saturday. We're going to make sure, present laws so that we'll let our government know that we are not accepting anything less.
6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, right there in the Bahamas, our Bailey Park. That's where it's happening, and you're going to feel the love and the strength and the force coming to you all throughout the Caribbean. I can see those who are watching from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and someone just gave me the correct term. It's a minor attracted persons. Yes. So we just had a situation in a store here where a man tried to take away a woman's son right here in Barbados. Listen, guys, it happened right here, only on Monday that happened here. And the people are feeling they could do whatever they want. They struck down the laws from the books in order to remove the buggery laws, and it has opened the floodgates in this country. And so, Mrs. Stewart, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening, talking to us about that wall.
Yeah. I'll just give you a little joke. I got a call saying that the Bahamas Independence Committee wanted to have a gospel concert on the same park on that Sunday, the day after. This is, our approval has been in for about a month, and they said that they're going to be setting up from Tuesday of this week. Therefore, we cannot set up our rally. In other words, we have to reschedule our rally and move somewhere else. I said, not a day like it. I said, y'all will have to call the police, the defense force, and customs officer to move me of that park. I am having my rally, whether you all like it or not. The only person will be moving is y'all. And so they decided to move because they know my head ain't too good. So they decided to give in because they know, don't fool with Cassius Stuart. We're gonna have our rally, be protecting our children. And that's the kind of aggressiveness we want. Some of the members was like, oh, let's postpone it. I said, no, we're not postponing nothing. We already put our permission in. We got approval. We are not going to move. If they want to move, let them come lock us all up. And
Correct.
so,
And that is what we need, Caribbean. Do not back down. Do not back down. We have to be strong. And I thank you so much, Mr. Stewart, for joining us. And we send all the love that we could send, and we send all the strength and all the passion and the peace and everything that is necessary at this time. We send that to you in the Bahamas.
we
And
will
say
be
hi to
streaming
Fred
live.
for
We will be
us.
streaming live. I will send you the link. We will be streaming live.
Oh wow! So they'll be able to join in live on the Marcia Week show, and I'm sure that Sherwin from Trinidad will help us to get it out to everybody who's watching. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart. God bless you,
God bless
and
you.
it's been wonderful. To everybody else, please share the live. Let people know that we're on. I think that this is very, very important, even as we prepare for the natural storm, Brett, that is coming into this region. We need to prepare for this cultural storm, this spiritual storm, this moral storm that is trying to, to come over the banks, come over the walls, and get into our homes, and to destroy families and to destroy children. This is important. It can't be business as usual. We need to batten down the windows and the doors and make sure that we are strong enough on the inside. So I need you to share. I know people are worried in Barbados, or they're focused ears to the radio, trying to figure that out. But why aren't we? Our ears need to be on here as well. We need to be focused on what is happening. Well, tonight we also have with us Mr. Shefflorn Ballantyne, and he is from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And Shefflorn Ballantyne is part of the Thusia Seventh-day Adventist Church there, and was a big part of the Caribbean pushback during the pandemic. In the Caribbean, we are so grateful for Thusia Seventh-day Adventist Church, which Shefflorn is a member, and they were very instrumental in giving us a lot of strength and courage to push back during the pandemic. He's a teacher, and one of those who was unfairly dismissed during the mandates in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And he's here on the front line again. He's an author of a book which I think that needs to be all over the Caribbean. This man is a fighter, he and his wife Anne Marie, and way before the storm ever, before we even had the storm warning, he went ahead and did a book, and the name of the book is No Dress for Timmy. That's the name of the book right there on the screen. No Dress for Timmy, which needs to be recommended reading throughout the entire Caribbean region. And so I'm happy to have Mr. Shefflorn Ballantyne with us as you share the live. This is important, very important. Well, thank you, Mr. Ballantyne, for being here with us. Can you tell us, welcome, and tell us a bit of what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? You just had that case being tried there. Can you give us a bit of the climate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines while that case was being tried?
Well, good night to you, Marcia, and thank you so much for having me on again. And good night to all of your viewers in the region and wherever you are on the globe. In relation to what is happening here locally in St. Vincent, we have not had that upsurge in our classrooms of uh, transgenderism and the gender proliferation as is taking place in other areas in the region. But what has been around a while is the concept of child-friendly classrooms or child-friendly schools, and we have to keep a keen eye on that. Um, in relation to the case that you just
Can you
mentioned,
go back and tell us a little, describe to us what is so dangerous about the child-friendly schools?
well, there there were brief discussions in the past in relation to what seems to be an agenda to push, um, certain ideas that will eventually accommodate the sort of sexualizing of children eventually. It is something, like I say, we keeping our eyes on, because one cannot explicitly say that the way it is sexualizing of children, and that's why we're just keeping our eyes on it, you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, but foundation, like we know, foundation is being laid across the region, and it's just that it has not gotten to that stage here in St. Vincent as yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in relation to the case uh, dealing with buggery laws, a few years ago, I think it was in 2018, there were some persons who brought a claim before the court for the striking down of our anti-buggery laws. Interestingly, this is June, and this is what is commonly referred to as Pride Month
Mm-hmm.
among the LGBTQI plus persons. And it is also within this same month that, unknowing to a lot of persons, including myself, there was the trial of the case. That case was brought to trial, and it lasted a few days up to Monday, up to last Monday. Um, we got to, I think the general public became aware of it through an interview that was done, which included the lawyer, one of the lawyers for the case, on the side of the LGBT persons. And so the anti-burglary laws in St. Vincent are currently being challenged. We expect maybe around September or October, the judge will return a judgment on that. And then we'll know whether or not these will be deemed to be unconstitutional. So that is the latest we have here in St. Vincent. And what has happened also is public relations drive by that. I don't want to refer to it as a community, but the LGBTQIA plus individuals, where they're seeking to normalize the behavior. Um, and of course, they're engaging different institutions. There's one here that is headed by another lawyer that goes under the guise of equality and freedom from discrimination. And there are certain psychologists also who offer services um, to individuals promoting that behavior to a large extent. So we have
Mm-hmm.
that happening in St. Vincent
Mm-hmm.
within the public sphere at this point. Yeah. So that's the
Well,
latest. Yeah.
that's the latest. I found out that there is an organization called HumanityDignity.org, and they are actually taking the credit for this removal of the buggery laws throughout the region. And they are based overseas. It's an international organization, and they provide technical legal assistance to local organizations that are challenging laws that prosecute individuals on the basis of their sexual orientation and or gender identity. And when in December 2022, December 12th, when they struck down the buggery law in Barbados, this particular organization, they did an interview in a newspaper, and they were taking credit for it, that they are the ones that supporting the local and regional lawyers that are working on it. And they were able to say that there were 7 more Caribbean islands, St. Vincent being one of them. So they are just going around and knocking it down because they have the funding from this left wing organization, the Human Dignity Trust. And you can look them up on humanitydignity.org. That's the organization that is really involved in this. And as I don't know if you heard me saying earlier, that what they did, and you have to be careful of this in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they also removed another section of the Sexual Offences Act, which is section 12, which would protect our children from being solicited by adults. And so that's also removed. And one is here in Barbados, we're trying to figure out, what did that have to do with the Buggery law? Why did you remove section 9 and section 12? And that's what happened.
Well,
so
there's a global push. Yeah, there's a global push for a recognition of pedophilia as normal, and this push has been made by even the World Economic Forum. So that is no surprise at all. The whole idea is for persons to view themselves even as young as 4 years old as sexual beings, and as such they can have intercourse with whomever, whatever, wherever, whenever they please, and that should be tolerated within society. It has long been a push against what we enthusiast Seventh-day Adventists coined to be the social Christi, which is the influence of Christ in society. And that influence is seen in the laws that are established within society, and it is seen even in our educational system. It is seen in legislation. It is seen in general influence in society. So these things, such as marriage, for instance, being between a male and a female, the point of gender being only two, there are only two genders according to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 7. All of these are barriers to organizations in their goal to set up the New World Order. All of these principles are barriers to organizations like the World Economic Forum, sodomite organizations, even the United Nations, and the World Health Organization. And there's something that I want to point to, Marcia. It came to our attention that the United Nations had a document out within recent times where they are pushing for 5-year-olds to begin to learn about kissing and hugging and touching and other sexual behaviors. 5 years old. And this is what they're pushing to be taught to 5-year-old children, 9-year-olds, that they should learn about masturbation and sexual stimulation.
See?
This is the kind of sexualization that is taking place. But it's not just among what you will refer to as private individuals and private interests. We know the United Nations have a lot of private interests, but here you have a global organization pushing that upon the world. Look at the WHO, which has been trusted by so many governments in the region. What are they pushing? They came out with something called the Standards of Sexuality Education in Europe, a framework for policymakers, educational and health authorities, and specialists. And they are saying in this document, this policy document, that for children between 0 to 4 years old, they must learn about masturbation, and they have the right to explore gender identity. What does a 4-year-old, what does a 3-year-old know about gender identity and masturbation? But this is being pushed as a standard for sexual education. Then between 4 and 6 years old, and I'm quoting straight from that document, it can be found online, they are proposing that enjoyment and pleasure that these 4 to 6 year olds have experienced enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, and early childhood masturbation as well, having a secret love as
Wow.
well as same-sex love. And this is for a child between 4 to 6 years old. This is the reality of the world in which we are living in. 9 to 12 years old, what are they saying? You must experience your first sexual experience between 9 to 12 years old, and also interface with online pornography. So this is the reality, and this
What
is
are
from
you reading from?
page
What are you
4.
reading from, Shefflorn? Mr.
I'm
Ballantyne?
reading from the Standards of Sexuality Education in Europe, a framework for policymakers, educational and health authorities, and specialists. And this can be accessed online. It is a
Wow.
paper
Listen,
that they have put
folks, you
out.
please share up this live. This is so important. This is so important. And we heard from the speaker before, Mr. Cassius Stuart, about building up that wall. And that's what we're doing here. We're using information. This is fantastic information that is going out. And so I'm going to ask you to share this. If we can, in the Caribbean, we have to stand strong, and we're going to stand on truth and on the information that they are putting out. Continue, please, Mr. Ballantyne.
Yes. So I use those examples, and then you have the WAF, who is known to be pushing pedophiles as being saviors to humanity. So we have these global organizations that are seeking to demoralize. And who are they focusing on? They are focusing on children at this point in time. And this is important to them, for them to demoralize children, because if you're able to do that to children, then you've broken through a barrier that has been existing, which has prevented them from pursuing their goals to a new world order. They are seeking to re-engineer the society, re-engineer the globe according to their immoral standards. And, in our church, again, we coined the term socialism. They are seeking to create a socialist society on the foundation of sodomy. And that is what they're doing. What the previous speaker said, Stuart said earlier, is also very important, because he pointed out that sodomy or homosexuality lays at the foundation. It's not just transgender, but the foundation of all of that is what occurred in Sodom and Gomorrah and the 3 cities that surrounded there. Remember, this is the first time since God created, and the only time since then that God brought hellfires upon cities. And the next time he's going to do that is what after the second coming of Jesus Christ. So it is such a grievous sin in the eyes of God that he brought hellfires, fire and brimstone, the same material that he'll be using to destroy the world. He brought it upon these cities. And when you understand what actually occurred there, up to today, nothing grows there. But it stands as an example of God's wrath, his displeasure for these sexual deviant behaviors. So pedophilia, whether it be transgenderism, and another point I want to make in relation to transgender, it must be understood that gender, sex should be defined as not being devoid, or let me put it differently. Gender should not be defined as devoid of sexual identity, because your gender is not separate from your sex. That's the distinction they're seeking to make. And they're presenting that as some great thesis. When somebody wants to identify, for instance, as a cat, as happened in Europe, children identifying as cats, and others who oppose that and found it ridiculous who are being rebuked and censored. But you can identify, a man can identify to be whatever he wants, but he should not call that gender. He should call that his personal image identity. That's what he personally wants to identify as. As ridiculous as it is, as stupid as it is, it should not be called gender. Call it something else. Call it personal image identity. You see?
Yeah, they're trying to change the vocabulary and to
Exactly.
control the messaging and the narrative.
Exactly. And
Mm,
I also want to point this out because um, one of the things that governments need to understand, and parents as well, is that they have a responsibility. You see, when we send our children to school, the education that they get, or the time they spend in school overall, throughout their entire life, the time they spend in school is less than the time they spend outside of school. And you can be educated from being in a formal environment, a government-run school, or
mhm,
outside. So they are given over to the or lent to the government for a short period of time for the purpose of education, right? And the government needs to understand that. They need to understand that. And they need to understand that they are not supposed to be teaching any sort of education that results in self abuse. They need to understand, they need to teach that a man, for instance, cannot menstruate, that a man cannot be pregnant. They need to teach exactly what Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27 says, which is that there's a clear distinction between a man and a woman. God created Adam, God created Eve, he created male, he created female. These are the only two existing genders. These are the only two genders that God created. And so they need to declare, and this is our call upon the governments of the region. You go and you declare or you write laws forbidding sex education that include things such as man to man, forbid that. Sex education that includes man to man sexual intercourse. And, you know, let it be limited to the right kind of intercourse, which is between a male and a female, but be given to students at an appropriate age.
yes, yes.
Because after all, children at some point need to get that understanding, but it must be when they are at an appropriate age for that kind of education. And that
Mhm,
education should not include same sex relations. It should
mhm,
not include same-sex relations. You see, because and it's important for governments to do that. It's important for them to declare. It's important for them to have educational policies that dictate all of that. You know, um, and in relation to schools, schools should be prohibited from teaching sex in a different way. Very
mhm.
significant. And as to parents, parents need to understand, and governments need to understand too, that parents are the ones responsible for their children's bodies.
Mm.
Parents are
Say that
responsible.
again. Say that again, because there's also a push in Barbados to reduce the parental rights of parents in Barbados. And you seem to be saying, Chef Lauren, that this parental rights is very, very, very important in this fight.
Yes, yes, because there's no such thing as government rights over children. And that's important. There's no such thing as government rights over children. God gave you as a parent the ability to conceive. You are the one responsible. You have been entrusted with the body of your children. You have been entrusted with the training of their minds, and therefore you are the one responsible. So when it comes to the growth and development of your children, of their bodies, you are the one who is responsible, not the state. And so when it comes to sex and issues of sex and gender, you are the one who is responsible to define to your child what sex is, to define to your child the fact that, look, there are two genders, all right? And gender is not devoid of your sexual identity. You are the one responsible for that. It's not the state. And that is important to understand. All the state does is to give public education. And we're saying that public education should not include any sort of devious sexual practice.
Mhm,
It should not include that. When you're educating somebody, a child, as a public educational institution, it should be limited to the natural, God ordained male to female sexual intercourse, and this child must be at an appropriate age to be able to handle that kind of
To be able
education.
to handle it. Now, I want to, this is so very educational, Mr. Ballantyne, and that's why I'm asking people to share it up. People are actually saying that this is when someone says, thanks, Marcia, for providing the opportunity to be exposed to solid research positions on the current issues of gender, transgender, and parental rights. Anika Hope is saying, that's Undine Whitaker from Barbados. Parents, Anika is saying parents need to pull their children out of the schools. Because Shefflorn, I mean, I know we don't have much time, but if you're saying that the government has no right to determine what our children is taught, are you also saying if they are going to be pushing this on the children, if the governments are in the Caribbean region are going to push this on the children, is this something that you would recommend that the parents pull their children from schools?
Well, it is an option. It is a clear option. If that is it is obviously an option, Marcia, because it reinforces the fact that, look, this child has been given to me by God,
Mm-hmm.
and because of different reasons, I send this child to the public school system. I have to go and work, I have to go and ply my trade. I don't have the time during the day to educate my child myself. I send them
Mm-hmm.
there, and you have skilled persons there who are skilled in teaching, right, and so on. And if they are failing in their responsibility, but instead what they're focused on is demoralizing your child is still your responsibility. And so, it is clearly an option where you take the child. I was looking at a clip the other day. It's from a senator in California,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, um, he said something to the effect that he's a senator. He has been a senator for about a decade, if I remember well, there in
Mm-hmm.
California. And he said that he was resisting all the time, but now he's saying, leave. You understand? Leave the state.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because of the kind of immorality that the government there was pushing. So homeschool your child. Homeschool your child.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That's a clear option.
That's an option you have as a parent. Now, you have written this
Yes.
book, No Dress for Timmy, and I love you guys. When did you write this book, Mr. Ballantyne? What year?
Well, that was written in 2018. That was
2018, and that's why
yes.
I tell you, I think I'm a Thusian in my heart because I love you guys. Why I love you guys? Because you're always out there. You're way out there before they started this big campaign. Yes, it was always there, but in 2018 you wrote this book, No Dress for Timmy. We just have a few minutes left. Tell us about the book and how can parents get this book?
All right, so let me tell you about that book. But there's another one I want to plug just before I go into that, right? And it is this one that was written by Anissa Batiste and Naren Medina. It's called Studies
Anissa
in
Baptiste, one of my favorite
yes,
persons in the world. Tell me,
and
what's the name of the book?
Studies in Political Sodomy. This one is easily
Wow.
accessed online on Amazon. All right, so
Studies
this is
in
the
Political Sodomy.
Studies in Political Sodomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very, very important book. It highlights, among other things, the things that the gay. I wanted to quote from the Gay Manifesto. It's included here. How did we get here in terms of socialism? The
Believe me, we
science
will
of
have another show when we have the
yes,
next Caribbean
we
link
have
up,
to for
and we
sure.
will definitely have Miss Baptiste and Brother Medina on to go through this book. But
Excellent.
tell us then about
Well,
your
let me
book,
talk about
No
this now.
No Dress for Timmy.
No Just for Timmy. All right. Now, this is a children book that was born out of convictions from the Holy Spirit. My son was, I think he was about 4 at the time, and I was looking for age appropriate children book for him to read. And as I was going through Amazon, I came across what was very shocking to my mind at the time. I didn't realize it was so bad. Books such as Jacob's New Dress, 10,000 Dresses, I Am Jazz, and all these were children books that were promoting transgenderism, multiple genders, and so on. And so I said to myself, I got the conviction that since these books are out there and they're doing a demoralizing work to destroy children, why don't I write a book that corrects quite a bit of that and put power in the hands of the children themselves when they are faced with activist teachers in the classroom pushing their agenda. And that is where this book was born. It's an illustrated children's book. It tells the story of little Timmy, who had to face the fact that his friend, who was a male, was coming to school for career dress of the day as a princess. And he had to deal with how to address that, because he was being asked to commend his friend. Teachers will tell children, commend each other, they look nice, so forth, and that was against his conscience. He was timid initially, but the truth on his mind from Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27 resonated and strengthened him to stand up and take, declare the position that this is wrong. There are only two genders. George cannot be a girl. George is not a princess. Something is wrong.
And so this empowers the children.
Yes. Right. So the same way they want to target children to demoralize them, children need to understand that, look, even in cases, because this is what happened with Timmy, even in cases where you are attacked or shut down by an authority figure such as an activist teacher, you can bear the pain, bear the hurt, and feel satisfied that you spoke the truth, you stood for your conscience, what God has given to your conscience, and you can feel happy in that thought. So this empowers the child to stand up against this sort of demoralizing influence within their environment.
Powerful. Yes. And how can us parents get access? Because I deal with a lot of children, and I would love to be able to know that we have this material from the Caribbean. How can we get the books here in Barbados?
Well, you cannot get the book in Barbados in hard copy. We actually had some copies and they are almost finished. We have to place an order, and this is where I'm going to probably one of the brethren who is on can share the campaign. We're seeking to raise some funds to get this printed again in bulk so that we can march through the entire Caribbean.
Oh, wow, this is awesome. So can somebody put the link in the chat, guys, so that we can donate? Mr. Ballantyne is saying if he could just be able to get everything printed so that he can be able to donate. We would love for you to come over here to Barbados. July 8th, we have another rally, and we would love for you to be in Barbados July 8th with a whole set of books to give away. That's what we want to have in Barbados. We want to have when you come off the plane, you need to have suitcases of books, right? Or send them here to be printed. It's printed here, and you collect them here when they come. And when we're in Independence Square, we are distributing this book all over Barbados. They should be distributed in Bahamas and everywhere. Come on, guys, the campaign is there. It's the givesendgo.com. I'm seeing it here, and I don't have okay, good. The producer put it up. We want to get this out into as many Caribbean countries, into the hands of our children before they start school in September. This is a must. This is a must, and we want you to be in Barbados July 8th, Mr. Ballantyne, because when you get here, we need to fill the square with this book in the hands of the people of Barbados. I feel goosebumps right there. I could feel that. I feel that. I want to thank you so much. I could talk to you going on and on, but I have some other guests who are on from different Caribbean islands. So, Mr. Ballantyne, some St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I say all the very best to you with this birth storm.
Thank you so much.
This other storm that is a moral storm that is trying to, to overtake us. But we're pushing back. All right. So thank you so very much for joining tonight. Thank you. Guys, this has been so rich as per usual. As per usual. Anybody getting anything out of this? I'm getting a lot on this. Somebody saying your guest is researching and compiling useful information and writing our story. Yes, it's really true. No dress for Timmy, right? Listen, guys, share this live. This is important. This is our time. This is Caribbean time, and we are coming together. Now, I have in the coming up now at this time, we have with us Mr. I can't say Mr. I have to say Dr. Gill, right? We have our Dr. Gill is with us from Trinidad and Tobago, and there are lots of things happening in Trinidad and Tobago that we are seeing happening across that twin nation. And I know that they have something coming up on the 28th. I believe they also have a protest coming up on the 28th. We saw where the Minister of Education put out a circular to say that their government will not be introducing um, any kind of same-sex or sexual transgender education within the curriculum in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have Dr. Gill with us, who is a pastor in Trinidad, and we're just so grateful to have you here, sir, tonight. Good night and welcome to Watch Out My Children Caribbean.
Thank you, Marcia. And let me greet all the islands and compliment you, Marcia, for the sterling work that you are doing, for the strength that you are exhibiting. You know, from the first time I saw you, I said, wow, there's such a woman uh, in the Caribbean with such courage to stand in such a time as this. You know, there's a saying, he that does not have a purpose for which he's willing to die has no purpose for living. And so I see you as a strong woman of conviction and Esther who has come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And I want to encourage the entire Caribbean Christian community to pray for you. Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Well, at this time in Trinidad and Tobago, we are facing a firestorm. It sort of reminds me of 2020 when we had the outbreak of this pandemic that we know was really a pandemic, because I saw a chat just commence a few days ago, and there are about 2,000 people on that chat, and it's constantly going, and people are stood up and people are very concerned. So there's a great pushback here, and what sparked that is that in recent times, we have been having reports of a survey that children have been complaining about, asking them if they are male, female, or transgender, or other, that kind of thing. And I actually have a copy of that on my phone. Now, the ministry is denying it. And
So,
but
Bishop Gill, so you're saying that you have a copy of some of the questions in the survey?
exactly, because what happened is a parent, her child in a particular church, the young man came home and told the mother, but this, in a boys' school, he was asked if he's a boy or a girl or transgender or other. And so he took a picture of it. And when you see the photo, you know he took the picture of it, holding it down, and and brought it home to his mother. So
But I have to
uh,
stop you there, Bishop Gill, because it's so important for us to understand, because these things have been coming to us here in Barbados, and one of the things that we saw was that the Minister of Education said that the questionnaire had nothing to do with that. So are you saying that you have some questions from that confirming that there have been inappropriate questions asked in a survey to children in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, I have that. As a matter of fact, when you go on LGBT activist website called Silver Lining, that group states that they did a survey in 2019 on gender-based violence in secondary schools following approval from the Ministry of Education in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, this is a bombshell, and we're going to put it in their face. And they surveyed 2,284 students in 39 schools in Trinidad and Tobago, and they outlined 5 categories, one of which is LGBT exposure and attitudes. So this survey was successfully completed, they said, with funding from the European Union delegation to Trinidad and Tobago as a part of the Sexual Culture of Justice and Human Rights. So somebody in the Ministry of Education needs to answer the following questions for us. When was the National School Climate Survey done? What schools were used for the survey? Who authorized the survey? And was parental consent given to the survey? Because right now they are in denial. And but I've been in collaboration with some friends, because people call me because I'm the leader of TT Response, and I try to stay on top of these things. And so I've been getting calls and information being fed to me, and this is one. And so in the morning, I will be on the national television, and I'm going to talk about some of that. So now, tonight, I am here interfacing with you
Well,
and the Caribbean.
we
But I
get
want
the
to.
confirmation first, because I had been getting calls as well about this. So it's good to hear, and I love to see that you're a bishop and you're on the front line with this. You're not, sometimes they want to label people who come out to speak about these things as troublemakers and people who are political and people who are, but you are a bishop, and your members in your church and in your community would have been concerned about this and have reached out to you, and you are responding in a national way, which is fantastic, sir.
Thank you so much, Marcia. And I want to say this to the diaspora or the LGBT ideology is not about equality. They cry out for equality and coexistence, but it's not about coexistence. It is about replacement. We need to get that clear.
It's about, can you
They
repeat?
want. It is not about coexistence. It is about replacement. That is why they are targeting institutions of learning like UE, and in particular, children in many parts of the world, including the Caribbean, because they want to phase out the Judeo-Christian worldview, Christian worldview, biblical worldview, and create a utopia, quote unquote, a place of where there's no moral distinction, a nihilistic society. And that is part of the global agenda. And we need to put what is happening in context, right? The ACP EU is something we need to bring into the discussion. That is the African, Caribbean, Pacific with the European Union trade agreement treaty that they want to sign. And this treaty, it was to be signed since sometime this month, but I understand that Hungary and Poland oppose it. Also, the African Union has had problems with it. But I just want to read what Article 36 and 38 says. Article 36 says, the parties commit to the full and effective implementation of sexual and reproductive health and rights. Article 48 says, the parties shall commit to the full effective implementation of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health information and education. Now, Once you sign a treaty, you have to stand by it, which means all your laws, your constitution will be circumvented or you will be punished. And this is where the battle really is. And apparently, recently the Vice President of America came to the Caribbean and offered so much of millions. So it seems as though something is already afoot, and our political leaders are sort of oppressed and forced because they see the Caribbean as weak. So they are forced to go in a particular direction. But the strength of the pushback is we the people. And I want to say this. God has established 3 institutions in the world. The first is the family. The second is the church or religion, quote unquote. And the third is government. Each of these institutions have their sovereign rights and boundaries. They're all supposed to keep each other in checks and balances. None has a right to dominate the other or take away their sovereign right given by God. And the thing about this now, the government has the power of the sword, the natural sword. The church has the power of the spiritual sword. But the amazing thing about this is that, when Paul would argue for the authority of the man, he spoke about the fact that he was created first. And if we use that pattern, the family was created first by God, instituted first. Out of the family came the church. Out of the church and the family came government over nations. That is in Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 4, God established worship, but the family is in Genesis chapter 2. So even in the scripture, we see that progressive revelation. So the family comes above all. And on top of the family is the parents. This is why in the book of Genesis, Jacob had authority, Isaac had authority to speak into Jacob's life. Words that you will become a great nation, nations will bow to you, and so forth. And his brother cried that his father would just speak words. Let it be known to the whole Caribbean. Fathers have power. What is happening now in the Caribbean is the pushback of the parent, fathers, mothers and fathers. And that is powerful. And once they come out, the government cannot, they have to back down. Because remember, that's an institution that God has instituted, and naturally people will gravitate toward that. And they themselves will have to duck and hide and lie and run and so forth. So, secondly, the church has power. The church has power. That's why Jesus said, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God's. It is on those words the American Constitution of separation of church and state was established, though they try to twist it today. So the church has power, the power to pray, the power to consult God. And, the first time they planted the gay flag in Trinidad and Tobago, we got the biggest earthquake ever. And we were warning them. And I could tell the authorities that be in Trinidad and Tobago, if they cross the line, it ain't going to go down easy. The church is still alive.
So you're saying that when they planted the LGBT whatever flag in Trinidad, there was an earthquake in Trinidad on that day?
Yes, I think that was about a year or two ago when they first, we never had Great Pride March in Trinidad and Tobago. So when they launched it in Trinidad and Tobago and they planted the flag, we had the biggest earthquake in Trinidad. As a matter of fact, there was a certain church in Port of Spain where a piece of the steeple fell off. We have never had that. And I believe that God was warning this country. Okay? So another issue is the UE gender policy.
Yes.
The UE gender policy, and I'm referring to what was written in 2017 for Cave Hill, Barbados, Mona, Jamaica, and St. Augustine, Port of Spain. In the foreword of that UE gender policy, Professor and Vice Chancellor Sir Hilary Beckles stated, it is imperative, therefore, that at UE we make deliberate transformative progress in regards to gender and gender diversity and social inclusion, not just honoring, but celebrating the human rights of all in our midst. Now that is a loaded paragraph there, and I want to just say this from that he is saying that we must make deliberate and transformative progress. So they are deliberate, and they want to transform society in regards to gender. They talk about gender rights in this policy, then gender justice, gender diversity, gender equality, gender identity, gender advocacy, gender planning, gender mainstreaming. But when they say gender, Marcia, they are saying you can identify as any gender and you must get rights. When UE was founded and they talk about gender rights, it meant right as a woman. A woman must not be discriminated against as a woman. But now they are saying a man could be a woman. And you must accept that that is what they are coming with. And so this whole UE gender policy is a pack of nonsense. It's educated, foolish people. The Bible said, professing to be wise, they become fools. I look at the paper and I said, imagine, intelligent people wrote this. All they are actually pushing in that paper is to give rights for gender identity. That the Bible says in Genesis 1:27, there are only two genders, male and female. They are saying there's so much of genders and you can change your gender. I have learned that there's a bone in the human body that is gender specific, and that is the pelvic bone. So even if you say your transition, that bone cannot transition. It remains female and it remains male. Our constitution in Trinidad and Tobago states, whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago have affirmed that the nation of Trinidad and Tobago is founded upon principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, and that we are a nation under God, not above God. So what is happening now, if they try to push aside biblical principles, this is satanic. This is what it is. It is evil. And they want to destroy us. It's not coexistence they are seeking. They want to litigate us. They want us not to accept them. They want us to celebrate them and accept their lifestyle. And we cannot do that. If we accept them, we will have to deny who we are.
You know, Bishop, I'm listening to you, and I could feel the power and the passion as you are speaking. You are the senior pastor of Redemption Christian Center there in Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to ask you something, Bishop. Do you think that they're going to win? You said that it's not about equality; it's about replacement. But as a bishop there in Trinidad, do you think that they're going to win?
Well, let me put it this way: yes and no. From a theological standpoint, God has always had a people, and He will always have a people. And like you are standing, I believe there are people that will stand. But sad to say, based on prophecy, the Bible says there'll be a falling away. The Bible said in the last days, darkness will cover the earth and gross darkness the people. A revival is coming through the nation of Israel that will usher in the return of Jesus Christ. So things will increasingly get worse, but things are not falling apart, they are falling in place. The Bible calls these things the birth pangs of the end times, the groanings and the birth pains that will give way to the coming of the Lord. But let me say this, I'm not a pessimist. I believe as long as there are people who are willing to stand, it may happen, but not in our time. Not in our time. We can delay this. We can push it back because we are the salt and light of the earth. I personally believe that they're going to lose in Trinidad and Tobago big times. I really believe that. Yeah, they have power, Marcia, but we have power too. We have power.
Yes. Yes,
also I'm going to
and
increase
that why
our
I asked you that question, because sometimes it can feel so much, this thing is looming over us. It's like I was telling, making the analogy at the beginning of the program, where here in Barbados there is a wall at this organization or establishment in the north of the country, and the water is coming up because we're under a storm watch, and we're getting all the waves are coming over, and sometimes when you look up and you see these big waves coming over, you might sometimes think that, oh my goodness, it's going to engulf us. But I believe that we are, as we're people of faith, and we have to tell
yeah,
ourselves in Barbados that it will not work in Barbados. It's going to fail. It will fail in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's going to fail in Trinidad. It's going to fail in the Bahamas. It's going to fail in Guyana. It is going to fail the same way that their safe zones failed. All the different
that's
things
right.
that they tried, Bishop, it failed. If the people come together, they will fail, because with us and God, they cannot stand. They cannot. I just thought I
And
would
I say a
put
big
that in.
amen to that. Well, you preach there, and I say amen.
Well, Bishop, I tell you, you have cleared up a lot of things for me this evening, and I am looking forward, to we're inviting everybody, come over on July 8th and help us fight here in Barbados, because this is where they believe this is the epicenter. But hey, we're wiggling ourselves out of that. We said no, none of
Amen,
that.
amen,
And so July 8th, we're having a
amen.
huge rally in the middle of the square, and we want to give away so many of those books to our children in Barbados all over. We're going to flood the square with no dress for little Timmy, and we're inviting
Right.
Cassius to come in. I hope you can come into Bishop, man, to take a flight and
Yeah.
come over and help us fight in here, right?
Who can tell? I would love to see you in person, just to shake your hand and compliment you. So possible, it's possible. If not, we will look at the
At the
link
link,
and
yeah.
and,
But
and share.
listen, and whenever you are ready in Trinidad, let us know. It's just a plane ride over there, 45 minutes, because we have got to work together. We have to work together,
Amen.
sir. I want to thank you
Amen.
so much for your integrity tonight in bringing a lot of clarity to some of the
Yeah.
questions that we were asking, because we were confused. The Minister of Education was saying one thing and the parents were saying another thing. And you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah. Yeah.
report what is truth. And so you brought a lot
Yeah.
of integrity to the whole thing tonight, and a lot of clarification. Thank you so very much, sir. Please stay standing,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for what you did in the pandemic through TT Response. And we're looking for a strong response from TT Response. Read this tsunami that is
Amen.
trying to engulf us here in the Caribbean.
Amen. Thank you so much, Marcia. God
God
bless
bless
you.
you, sir. God bless you. Isn't this amazing, guys? This is so very good. And this is why I love this. I mean, tonight we learned about two books that were written in the Caribbean region. Right here, not in the US, right here. And I'm sure there are others that we haven't heard about. And I'm hoping that we can do something together on July 8th. July 8th, we want to make a strong stand in Barbados. And when we stand in Barbados on July 8th, we're not just standing for Barbados, but we're from here is a platform. We're standing on this platform and we're shooting out to the rest of the Caribbean from this platform. And we're telling our governments absolutely no. It will not happen. It will not happen. We are the majority, and we're standing up and we're saying we're standing for righteousness in the Caribbean region, and we're protecting our children. Who will protect the children? We will. And we have this another apostle from Guyana, Apostle Nigel London. This man is something else. I know he's been there, but I wanted to leave him for this time. Apostle Nigel London, I must say that you are someone who stood so much for justice. You stood on the word of God. You stood for justice. You stood for righteousness. You know, if I had a if I had a brother in Guyana, it would be you, because when the things that you stand for are the things that I stand for in this country. I see you every day. And I said, look at this man. He is putting his neck on the line, putting his life on the line, standing up for the children of Guyana. And Apostle Nigel London, I must commend you. Oftentimes, you know, I would speak, you know, against some of these apostles, but I can't say that tonight. I can't say that because you guys are standing up. You are standing up. Can you tell? First of all, welcome. Welcome. I get so intense. You came on the screen. I got so intense because I feel the justice bone inside of you, the mercy bone inside of you. And it is the Messiah's bone that's there. It's Yahweh, it's Yeshua that is standing up strong inside of you on behalf of the children of Guyana. Can you welcome, sir, and tell us what's happening in Guyana with the children there?
Thank you. And to those of you viewers, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to share this platform with you. As always, I am overjoyed to see that as a sister, you were prepared to stand and to do that which is certainly commendable, to be determined to ensure that justice is served across the region. I thank you for ensuring that we are all informed every so often as to what happens in your territories. I am here in Guyana, South America, and experiencing that which I consider to be, in reference to our children, a very, very dangerous plot. I've heard of some of the more overt strategies at play in Barbados, for example, and it may sound strange I'm saying it. You are better off than us in Guyana in that people are coming out to say, okay, then this is what they're doing. You can see what they're doing. They've removed certain laws and so on, repealed certain laws. In Guyana, they are far more strategic, and I would dare say wicked, where they're doing things behind the scenes. And we're not able to, if you're not in the loop, as they say, you're not getting information first-handed in the media and so on, through the court making decisions. So many people are thinking that it's not bad, it's not an issue. And I'll give you a perfect case. What we have in our society is, for example, in October, there's something called Spirit Day that the homosexual groups would have in Guyana. What is Spirit Day? The British Embassy, the British High Commission in this country, they host this along with people who I deem are sodomites. What they do, they target children. I saw firsthand and heard for myself, it's in the news, where the Child Care Protection Agency, listen to the terminology, the director said that there must be a safe space in the school, and that's in 2019, I think it was, for LGBTQ students. Now, mind you, it is unlawful for a male to engage in a sexual act according to our Sexual Offences Act, Article 351 to 354. It carries a life sentence. So I led a protest there, and I was in front of the agency with other people, and I said, now, how dare you say that children who would be deemed criminals according to the law should be protected and have a safe space? But why did they do that? Because the High Commissioner, the ambassador for the UK, would have been in Guyana encouraging them to have these rights for children. Additionally, I want to share with you that it is in our curriculum, but it is not in the curriculum, technically speaking. But those who teach it in some instances insert it in this context, or in this case. The Health and Family Life curriculum in Guyana speaks to making children aware of LGBT. There's not like a transgender in my book. It cannot happen. And we'll talk about that if you want us to. I don't call them anything but T. You cannot be transgender. But what they say is the curriculum directs the teacher to speak to the existence of this problem. That is, some people who may think they're lesbians and so on, but there are laws in Guyana that speak against it. That's what the curriculum recommends. But what these people are doing is, in some cases, they're teaching it as though this is another lifestyle. It's an option.
Mm.
So we have to be so watchful in the school system to see who is teaching what.
So you're saying, Apostle London, that it is subtly inside the curriculum
Yes.
through the
Yes.
HFLE, which I did some research into Guyana, and I found that out. This was last year, August, that it is there through the gender teaching about gender violence
Correct.
and all of that. So it
Correct.
is inside the curriculum.
So it's
Yes.
and sorry, that's why I said that we have to be so cautious, because it is not to be taught in a manner that it's taught by some people. It is to be taught that this is unacceptable. Though it's in existence, society is against it. The laws are not there to promote or condone such behaviors. But some persons, it has been brought to my attention, has been proven to be true, they're teaching that this is just another lifestyle. No, it's a criminal act. So if we don't monitor who is teaching the subject, and we don't monitor what the children are being taught, this would be infused. And that is what I call miseducation of our children here in Guyana. And then if you're going to have events planned hosted by the British High Commissioner and so on, and persons are going to speak to protecting these children. We had ministers of education, three of them. Henry Jeffries one, Nicolette Henry another, and Priya Manik Chan, who all said that they are prepared, Priya said it in my face, to protect LGBTQ students. And I said, how can you protect criminals? Why don't you protect those who smoke weed in the school then? Why don't you protect those who carry guns in the school? What makes them different? If it is illegal, it is illegal. And so we are in Guyana faced with the pressure that's on our ministers of education, because they receive grants and aid and all kinds of money. And now our children are at risk in our country. What is even worse is in Guyana, because we do not discriminate according to law, they say, based on ethnicity and all of that, we have got homosexuals openly effeminate and women who try to be openly masculine teaching our little children.
Okay.
That's another problem that we face, because I am one who's advocating as a father that if any male is effeminate, acting like a woman, he should not be allowed to teach any child in any school. Because I see the threat, and I know what they're about to do here in the Caribbean region. They will allow them to apply for teaching jobs. They're in colleges in Guyana being trained to teach, and we cannot discriminate. So they're putting them into the school system, and they're behaving, these men, as if they are women. And they're allowed to teach our boys. That's how they're having a subtle source or form of influence, an opportunity to influence the children in Guyana. But we have to resist on all fronts.
So can you that is quite interesting there, because I would have read the information and then now hearing it from you confirming it, it's quite interesting. Now, can you tell me what's the general sentiment? So I see you a lot on Facebook, and I see you really pushing. I remember when you launched that investigation or that protest about that issue, because I follow you all the time. But I want to know, what about the average person in Guyana? Are they open to this kind of education within the school system? Are they saying, well, Guyana needs to be progressive? What's the general feel among the people, the sentiment among the people?
Guyana, like so many other Caribbean territories, we are overwhelmingly anti-homosexual behavior. I'm not homophobic. I don't fear anything that's alike. So I don't allow them to classify who I am. I am not homophobic. I am anti same-sex relationships and anti-aggressive people seeking to direct how I must think. And that's a general theme and thought process. The psyche of most Guyanese, the overwhelming majority, is that, and I may use some strong terms here, we dislike these people because of what they have shown us. They are extremely aggressive towards us. They lie. They slander people like me, probably you.
Yeah.
They launch they launch horrific attacks at our character and then say that we should be loving. I despise them because Yahweh sees them as being abominable.
So when you say you despise them, you're despising their behavior, their characteristics, because it's true. They have written to me. I mean, trust me, if they could find anything for me, they would blow it up as big as ever. That's how they behave. And then at the same time, they're saying, "Oh, you're not tolerant of us. You need to be loving." And then they make up lies. So I totally get you in terms of the behavior, but we don't hate people. It's the behavior.
I can clarify for you exactly what I said, because I'm speaking for me here through my God Yahweh. If we and because I'm speaking tonight as a preacher, if we examine text carefully, the scripture records that outside of the gate were particular behaviors. In Revelation 22, I think it is 15, somewhere around there. It spoke to behaviors, or not behaviors, but people who do these things. For example, if he says, "Don't you know that no effeminate will inherit the kingdom," or no liar? It never said that lying will not inherit the kingdom, but the person who does it. Further, it speaks to Yahweh hates the wicked in Psalms. He didn't say you hate the things they do alone. So it speaks to an individual, and David said, "Do I not hate those whom you hate?" Not just what you hate. Because we cannot remove, the only way that we can call someone a thief is if they steal. We can tell someone, "Listen, stealing will burn in the lake of fire, but the thief would go to heaven."
Thief. The thief is a person.
Exactly.
So I understand.
Correct.
I definitely understand.
So from my heart, and I'll tell you why I despise people, and not all of them, but there's certain characteristics that they display towards me and others. It's very deceptive. And we're here to speak tonight about our children. I said to this country and to the Caribbean, the world at large, especially the Caribbean region, in 2016 thereabout, I was on television, I warned, I said, "These people are coming after your children." They were not doing it. They weren't doing anything like this in any part of the Caribbean to that extent. I said, I know them, and I've read a book called After the Ball. This book is the most dangerous thing that ever existed, written by Marshall Kirk and Erasty Spill. The book clearly stated that in any part, and was targeting the US in the 1990s, it said how they will overhaul the US's hatred or their refusal to accept homosexuality. And these men strategized carefully. They said, if ever you're going to speak to this behavior, leave certain groups way in the background. Don't mention them. One such group was called NAMBLA, North American Man Boy Love Association.
Yes.
They've remodeled it now to be minor attraction people. I think something like that it is. Now, minor attracted people, MAP. But it's the same thing, where they're saying, the people said, if you put NAMBLA in front, they will destroy us. So they said, leave them in the back. Don't even mention them. They exist, but don't mention them. Their time will come. Now is their time.
Wow.
Because I want to read for those who are viewing and here tonight, a very important aspect of NAMBLA's constitution that is seen across the Caribbean and will hit us like a storm if we're not careful and we don't fight against this. The first page of the Constitution contains the following passage. NAMBLA's goal is to end long-standing oppression of men and boys involved in any mutually consensual relationship in these three ways. One, by building a support network for such men and boys. Next, by educating, that's where the schools will come in now, educating the public on the benevolent nature of a man-to-boy love relationship. They want to educate us that it's okay for a man to love a boy. Finally, and most dangerous, is number 3, cooperating with lesbians, gay, and other movements for sexual liberation. This is the trap. And this is what they've done in Guyana, and they'll do in Barbados and any other part of the Caribbean. They say that if ever you're approaching the legislators, the lawmakers, do not go with your homosexual agenda alone. Ensure that you add to it something that they cannot refuse to give to you. For example, say that men are allowed to love boys, and in the same list of requirements or requests you're making that you petition in reference to the lawmakers, say that you demand the people to have fresh water to drink. Sounds crazy. They also said demand that you cannot separate them. So this is one bill or one paper or one petition. It is inseparable. It is indivisible. So you cannot say, well, we'll give you water, but you can't have boys. The argument they posit is this: if you deny us water or deny us the boys, we say that you don't want us to have water to drink. And the book said that they're going to tie the hand of the politicians because they want votes and they don't want to be deemed bad people. Further, they said they're going to use the media to say that they don't want to give you fresh water to drink. They won't mention apparently the boys here. So they say the government of Barbados is refusing to give people fresh water to drink. Miami wouldn't want that. So to prevent bad publicity, you say the bill is passed. Once you do that, remember what's in the bill. That's what happened to Barbados. You remove Section 9 because they included Section 12. But if you say, well, you won't have anything at all, they say you hate us. You are hateful. You are against our liberty to have sexual intercourse as grown men. They didn't say that they've attached to that the desire for the Children's Bill Act to be removed. There's a strategy that all parents in the Caribbean must be alert to. And if we're alert to it, you'll do what I have said. I started in the USA. When they introduced this nonsense about gender-neutral bathrooms, I told my children, be home. If they tried it in Guyana to say that at the university level, that's where they start. They want to have gender-neutral bathrooms. I said, no way. Because I knew it was going to come to the schools next. So I said, no. No, there'll be nothing called gender-neutral, anything in Guyana. Wherever you try it, we'll come and deal with you because we know the end result will be our children. That is the bottom line.
I'm listening to you. I'm telling you, this is such an eye-opening show. I am telling you guys this kind of information because I remember the NAMLA group. And so that is the genesis and the foundation of the minor attracted persons.
Correct.
And, Dave is saying here that exactly what we see in the food and nutrition policy in Barbados with the inclusion of the adolescent clinics. So they've included the adolescent friendly clinics inside the nutrition policy.
Correct.
And this is where they are, pushing a lot of the sexual and reproductive rights of children.
Correct.
Within the nutrition policy, just like what you're saying, they include the water, and you can't refuse it.
No.
And so this is what is happening. What do you say to the governments of the Caribbean region who they can't refuse the water? They feel like, how can we, we can't refuse all of this, but at the same time we have to take in everything else. What do you say to the governments of the region?
I'm happy that you've asked that question because many who are political figures sometimes will ask me behind the scene, what do we do then? How do we deal with this matter? And the answer to that is deal with it through the people. I suggested to the leader here, who was the previous president, David Granger, via social media, of course. I said to him, because I know he followed, listen, this is very simple. Take this to a referendum. Let the nation decide what we want, because you know what the result will be. I said, if you go to referendum, you can easily say that the people of the country, because the US talks about the will of the people. Fine, remove yourself as a politician then. Say the people do not want it. When you do that, it gives us, the people now, the right to protect your position. Because we're saying that you're doing what we want, since we're a democratic nation. He refused to go to referendum. And what they did here in Guyana was, the homosexual groups began to pop up and say, no, we are a minority group. We are marginalized and we are small. So why should the masses control what we want? And my response to them was, why should the minority control what the masses want? First of all, the leaders of the Caribbean should take this to the people, because you know how the people feel. The widest population in the Caribbean do not agree with homosexuality. We protect you there. Secondly, I believe that the governments, as they're called, must teach the people what the government really is. The government includes the people. If you're a republic or you're democratic, the people govern. Democracy, people govern. So let us govern. We are governed through representation. In essence, then, you represent what we want. You don't tell us what we want. So everyone who's elected in a nation in the Caribbean, and most of them function in that manner, you are an elected representative of the people. So if the people say to you that we don't want this, then you cannot tell us that you the government to tell us what something else. So to every leader in the Caribbean, we want you to know that we have the power as people to represent ourselves if we choose to go contrary to what we want. And that's the third thing that they don't want to deal with, where the people decide that if you cannot represent us, we shall represent ourselves, because we shall defend the interests of our children. And this is where the people now must make the politicians understand that we have the power. We have the power to act, and we have the power to act in a manner across the Caribbean that'll make everyone realize, as they know for sure, that Caribbean people have a screw somewhere that isn't as tight as it should be. And that's as much as I can say. We have certain screws in our heads.
Yes.
Yeah, they aren't as tight as they're supposed to be.
Not too tight. I tell you, I am.
Not when it comes
you,
to our children.
I am when you start to touch our children, that's where the war is. There's an outright war. Don't mess with the children, and that's what they saw in Barbados 2 Saturdays ago. And you know what, Apostle London, there were so many men who came out.
Yes.
They were, listen, our march was a talk on everybody's lips, because first they were surprised on the number of people who came out, and then the number of men, and I mean, you had Rasta men, Muslims, all the people came out, and they said, no way, hell no, not
Correct.
now, never, and never. Yeah, and so that is the thing. I love what you suggest. Put it to the people. And I've said that, you know, even with our prime minister, the people will protect you. The people will protect you.
Yes.
Protect the people, and the people will protect you.
Correct. Always.
We will work with you. Listen to us, and we will work with you. You know. But we have another couple minutes with you, Pastor London, and even though it's not about this transgender education and the over sexualizing of our children, but it is in a way, because we had a young girl who was raped in Guyana, and the allegations, I've been following the whole thing, and I mean, it's it's just I'm appalled at it, because it is being alleged that it is by someone in power. Correct. Someone who has power over this young Amerindian girl. Can you just take about 2 minutes and tell us about that?
I surely can. And it does tie into the over-sexualization of our children, because in some circles, our little girls and little boys are now seen as objects who are worthy to be taught certain things and then to engage in certain behaviors. So if you sexualize them, then somebody will step on the scene to ensure that they have the experiences that they should have. Sadly, in this case, the person didn't want the experience that the adult thought in reference to the allegation. And this minister here is showing us through behaviors that there are certain arms of the state, tentacles I call them, who can be easily touched by political powers to act contrary to that which they should. The report is that since December, this child made this report that she was raped, she was sodomized, and it was her first sexual encounter, according to her, the very first time.
Wow.
The very first time she was sodomized by a man twice as heavy, in reference to a report, who happens to be the minister directly responsible for the Amerindian people in reference to certain developmental projects and so on. And since December, Guyana is now hearing in June that the president was made aware of it, The Minister of Education was made aware of it. The minister responsible for human services was made aware of it, which would be child care protection and so on. And they did nothing. The Minister of Education said that she was going to meet with this girl sometime at a later date, and the date hasn't arrived yet. When the Child Protection Act is clear, when the Sexual Offences Act is clear, if anybody reports you, especially a child, that they were abused sexually, the first person you must go to is the police and nobody else. They have failed this child. Now we're seeing the child is going through even torture as far as I see it, where a superintendent of police wearing khaki would have caused this little child to issue some statement that it didn't happen. And he signed. But then I'm thankful for the foundations, that Blossom Foundation, who said, no, we're not accepting that. And they did a clinical interview with the girl thereafter. And she said, everything I said at the beginning was the truth. It did happen to me. So now we are enraged. And in the last few seconds I have with you, the pain I feel and the rage I express is because I also have a 16-year-old daughter that has the exact body structure as this child. So it triggers me when I think about what if my daughter were to come to tell me that since December she told somebody, the president at that she was raped by a teacher. And in June, the president says that he's waiting for evidence or for facts to act on it. It triggers me. I am enraged also by the fact that there are numerous other girls who are saying that they've had the same experience. And there are other officials in the government, because there is like the Epstein Club in Guyana, where men are going into the interior, police officers, military men. The reports are coming to us in reference to complaints that they are mistreating the natives. Finally, I say that my grandmother, my great-grandmother, was 100% Akwayo. That's why I have this kind of nasal feature. I have the blood of the natives in me.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother was a short lady. My mother is short because we have the blood in us. So this has hit home in reference to my generation, my bloodline. And to see how they're being treated and the silence of so many churches would have me even more enraged, because our children are being attacked and targeted as sex objects in this country called Guyana. Because the perversion has come in through the likes of the US, the likes of the UK, the likes of Canada and the European Union. They have introduced us to perversion. The Caribbean needs to know that a British High Commissioner named Gregory Quinn in this country said that because they give us grants for sugar, to help in the sugar industry, we must repeal buggery laws. That's how sick and stupid these people are.
Mm-hmm.
That because you give us money to help in the sugar industry, by now we should repeal laws for buggery. Not here.
Wow. Listen, Pastor London, I see someone says, let the law takes its course. And I like to say to people, guys, while the law is taking its course, it's very, very important that you agitate. Do not, because they tell you that the law is going to be, it's in the hands of the law. You've got to agitate. You cannot sit by, especially for things like this. That if this child didn't speak out, it would have been swept under the rug. So, and that's why Apostle London, I'm encouraging Guyana to stand with Apostle London and all the other protests that I see happening. I see a protest happening in New York. Guyanese from New York are protesting. Join with them. It could be your child. Do not sit on the sidelines. Do not sit on the sidelines. Join all these protests. And it's not about you interfering with the law. What you're doing is making sure the law is enforced. Exactly. That's how you get things done. Exactly. You must speak out.
Yeah, I dare say, because I know that statement is being thrown around a lot, let the law take its course. The first thing that law must appear to be is fair and just. And the law must be trusted in the hands of those who meant to enforce it. So if we cannot trust law enforcement, then the law can't take its course. We will take our course to ensure that those in law enforcement, like the superintendent, who sought to interfere with the course of justice, is removed. If he's not removed, then the law cannot function the way it should, because there are those who are there to subvert and pervert the courts of justice. So we're not going to sit back to say that the law must take its course, because if the law is taking its course, then the superintendent who sought to make the girls, who the girls sign something before, should be removed. That's
Correct.
also the law.
Correct.
The minister who said that she'll meet with the girl later on should be jailed or fined, because she is the one who presented the bill, I think, about the Sexual Offences Act of 2009 or 10. And now she says she could meet with the girl at a later date. No, she needs to be arrested. That's a part of the law too.
A lot of people don't understand the course of justice. You've got to stand and you've got to walk this child through and stand with her. And every day she gets up, she needs to know that Guyana is with her, because she's dealing with powerful people. You're dealing with powerful men. And for some reason, they treat the Amerindians like they're nothing. And so she feels powerless. Her family can't stand up to these people. So you have to stand up.
I agree with you.
So stop that. Stop that, guys. Stop that. Don't you ever say that. We must, the course of justice, and we must hold them accountable. Very important. Apostle London, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. And we're going to keep talking again. We want to encourage you to come over to Barbados.
I look forward to it.
July 8th is going to be a big rally here in Barbados, and we're inviting people over. Those who are if you're watching from Bahamas, on Saturday they have their rally there, and when Mr. London is having his rally in Guyana, please let us know. We want to come over to Guyana. All right. Thank you, Reverend London. God bless you. Guys, oh my goodness. This has been so rich, isn't it? Robert John. Robert John, yes, we have a sick bunch of cowards at the top. They're not powerful. Wicked is the word. Hi, Sherry, Melanie London. The law is, Melanie London said, the law in the hands of the lawmakers is manipulated, interpreted for their benefits. Money controls justice. When the people of a land sit quietly amidst injustices and oppression of the poor. Correct. And I just want to really thank you. His land says, stand against injustice in all forms. Corrine, thank you, Corrine. Oh my goodness, so many people. Sunshine Leon said the governments are the enemy of the people, having kowtowed the demagogues of the World Economic Forum, globalist satanic agenda. Therefore, they are not interested in ordinary people. Yeah. Yes. Rose Spelling says, the young lady in Guyana is one brave young lady, and I commend her. Those in authority are wicked. This whole situation is sickening and heartless. The silence of the churches and people in society is deafening. Well, guys, we have one final guest, and listen. I believe we left the best wine for last, and he's Mr. Umar Abdullah. Umar Abdullah from Trinidad and Tobago. And I know he's tired there because he's been going and doing a lot of work. This is one of the hardest working man in the Caribbean. And I wrote something down, and I wrote this down this evening as I thought about you, Mr. Abdullah. I said, a voice for the voiceless, kind-hearted and genuine. That's what I wrote in my book here. And that's the truth from my heart, because that's how you are. I was in Trinidad with you when I first, started to get information about this. And it was through the first wave movement that Mr. Abdullah is the head of, that really began to I would have to say, began to teach me about a lot of what was happening around the world. And I would have heard it from Dr. Veronica Evelyn, another stalwart in this, but it was when I went to Trinidad and they had my rapt attention that persons like Umar Abdullah, Naeem, and these wonderful brothers, you know, took me aside and explained to me and taught me on what was happening globally. And I saw how they stood up for the voiceless in Trinidad, and their kind-heartedness, right? And so you know, I really really appreciate what you do. So Umar Abdullah, welcome. I was talking about you like you're not, like you don't, you weren't there, but I so appreciate you and the first wave
Thank
movement,
you.
and from my
Mm.
heart for what you do for Trinidad. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Marcia, and uh, thank you for having me again. Um,
I can
it's
hardly hear you
it's.
though. Can you speak up a
Are
little?
you hearing me? Are you hearing
A bit
me?
better now.
Right. Yes. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Greetings to all your viewers. We are living in very perilous times, and I've been hearing your guests that had gone before, and I'm really wondering what else must happen for us to wake up, fully wake up. What else must happen? Um, in Trinidad, we are seeing some of the parents, they are waking up. They are, some of them are fully awake now, and they have been, raising their voices and letting their voices be heard. Um, a number of issues has presented itself before us here in Trinidad and Tobago, and we are trying to deal with it. As you would have probably recognized, a lot of information has been circulating on social media, a lot of photographs of books and booklets and so on and so forth. Um, one 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 common name that's been called in all of this, RIK, Roland Ishmael Khan's Services Limited. It's a book outlet. Sells a lot of books. It's the largest bookstore in Trinidad and Tobago, and they have a lot of branches all over Trinidad and Tobago. And they are the only establishment that's actually selling these books. We have gone in other bookstores and we have not seen it in the other bookstores. There is an initiative by the international school, though, I understand, where they have taken an old phone booth and converted it into a library. And that library is packed and filled with these filthy books. Um, I am asking persons who are living close by to that school to pay that school a visit and look at those books yourself and be the judge yourself. Understand what is happening in this country. You're asking parents to visit the RIK bookstore closest to you and go into the bookstore and find out what's happening, what's selling. Have a chat with the manager, which we did, and very sad to say, Ishmael RIK Roland Ishmael Khan Services Limited has been very disrespectful to Trinidadians over the past couple of days. They have shown us gross disrespect, and they have indicated, they've practically shown us the middle finger. And we are not going to tolerate that in Trinidad and Tobago. We're not going to allow that to continue to happen. These are people who, for years, depended on the people like us, service them, to patronize them and so on. That's how they built their wealth, and that's how they built their power and their dynasty. And now they're turning their backs on the majority. They're turning their backs on the majority and facilitating the minority. That's what they're doing. All right. And we're asking the question, who's facilitating? Who's paying for all of this? They have to be getting some encouragement from somewhere. All right. I was talking to one Muslim brother here in Trinidad. They have a organization called Y Farm. It's a it's a youth organization that focuses on agriculture and sustainable living and food security and all of that. And they actually train young people and to get into agriculture and you know planting the land and feeding themselves and learning how to battle amongst themselves and so on and so forth. A really wonderful program. So they would have printed some textbooks, teaching young people how it is to go about these different activities and so on, getting themselves more involved, more attached to the land, more attached to involving themselves in planting and producing food for themselves and for the nation. And they would have approached RIK to sell those books in RIK. And RIK refused them. But they have accepted the challenge to sell these rubbish in their stores. I went in there today and we actually, I would have posted out the video already, the interaction that we had with them in the store itself. And the guy he bought a book. That's the rainbow book that he bought. I'm a rainbow. On the back cover, it says I'm a rainbow too. And the drag queen pictured on the back cover of the book, dressed in, I don't know, a she type of clothing. I can't describe it. All right. And they're expecting children ages 8 to 10 to buy these books and to read these books. I asked a simple question. What type of education? What is the objective? Are you buying a book like this and giving it to a child? What do you intend to achieve at the end of the child reading that book? You tell me. He couldn't answer the question. He was dumbfounded. If you look at the video, you'll see it yourself. It is all in the video. I sent it out, a TikTok video. So the Ministry of Education is lying and deceiving the people as usual. Remember when the Prime Minister came and told us, I'm not shutting down Petrotrin? In case you didn't hear me the first time you were closing the fish jaw, we are not shutting down Petrotrin. Before the air around his mouth even dried up, he shut it down. Displaced hundreds of persons, displaced them from their jobs, destroyed hundreds of families, and caused the closure of over 285 businesses in the South land alone. This is the wickedness of this administration that we see playing out in the Ministry of Education right now. All right. And Dolly has a lot to answer because I'm going there tomorrow evening at 2:30. I'm going to mount a protest in front of the Ministry of Education tomorrow. I'm prepared to camp out and take up residence outside the Ministry of Education. I am not moving until they secede to our demands. I'm not moving. And that's what we're
Wow.
going to do tomorrow.
So that's tomorrow. What time will you be there?
2:30 in the evening. I wrote the Commissioner of Police this morning and I indicated to her my intentions to go in there to protest and, give her all the reasons why we need to go there and protest and why the police needs to support us. Because I would have said on the video today, if Dolly is thinking she's going to get the support of the police, she's not going to get the support of the police. These police officers, they have children, boys and girls, and they don't want their boys and girls to go sit in the classroom where on the right sits a boy whose mother and father is both male and male. And on the left sits a girl whose mother and father is two females. And at the front of him sits a boy who identifies as a girl. And at the back of him sits a girl who identifies as a boy. These people has been listed on the list of mental disorders on the Psychiatric Association of America, and they're classed as a mental disorder. Homosexuals, all these persons who are indicating this type of behavior, all right, they have a mental disorder. So why are you insisting that my child sits with a person who has a mental disorder? They need to be seen as psychiatrists. They need to be speaking to a psychiatrist, not to my child. My child is not qualified. My child is not qualified to speak to a mentally deranged person. All right? And let's get it right. We are not hating you. We're hating what you do. We are hating what you do. We're hating your lifestyle. And we don't want it. All right? Keep it to yourself. Lock it up in your room, at home, in your house. Lock it there and keep it there. We don't want it outside. And we're going to teach you a lesson in Trinidad and Tobago. I got a threatening call today on my phone. Person blocked their number and called me. I usually take all calls, whether it's blocked or not. And I was threatened. I believe it was recorded on my phone. I will have to check back later tonight to see if I catch the recording. This is the attitude of these people. They become very violent when they can't get what
Yes,
they want.
they do. They do. That
Yeah.
that's the thing. We were only speaking about that earlier with the Reverend from Guyana. That
Mhm.
they will do the worst things. They try to shut down our we rented we rented the square, and they try to tell lies and try to shut us down, and they're the first to talk about tolerance,
Yeah.
and they're some of the most wicked people. Some of these people, their behavior is nasty and evil and deceitful. So I totally understand and we need to understand what we're dealing with, and not try to be so passive around them, because they'll try to kill you.
Yeah. And they're breaking the laws. Roland Ishmael Khan Services Limited, they're breaking all the laws. Trinidad and Tobago government are breaking the laws. The Ministry of Education, they're breaking the laws. Custom and Excise,
Hmm.
they're breaking the laws as well. They're allowing these books to come into Trinidad and Tobago, knowing fully well these books have been published for children ages 8 to 10 years. All right. Most of the books are like that. And you know fully well the contents of that book. It is not age appropriate. All right. It is not age appropriate. And so, the persons who acquire these books, obviously, if adult buys it, they're not buying it for themselves. They're buying it for children who are 8 years and 10 years
Mm-hmm.
to sexualize these children from a very early age. All right. They're molding them. All right. That's what they're doing. And obviously, when these children are all acted up and fired up, how are they going to gratify themselves? Of course, you will be there to help them. These sick, perverted people. Sick and perverted. You understand? It's only because I am a man of God. It's only because I'm a man of God, and Almighty God taught me tolerance. He taught me to be loving. He taught me to be kind. He taught me to be generous. And I'm being all of that to these people. All right? We're living in the same space, and I recognize you as for who you are. But I'm not pushing my way on down your throat. I'm not coming to you and telling you you have to accept Islam or else. I'm not pushing my way down your throat. I speak to many people on a regular basis, every single day, Marcia,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody can ever come and tell me or say to anybody that Umar Abdullah asked them to accept Islam.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done it. I live by example.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is you see by my example that you're interested or you want to be like me or you want to live like me, okay, you come and you tell me you want to be Muslim, well, okay, Alhamdulillah. I have no issues with that. I will tell you now what a Muslim is. Who is a Muslim? Teach you a little about the religion and make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself involved in, right? Because we're not about building numbers, all right? So I'm not about that. I'm not about arguing religion and arguing race and these type of things. No, I'm about goodness, progressiveness. You understand? Positive progressiveness. I want my children to grow up like children. All right. I don't want them to be confused. That's what you're trying to do with our children. Make them confused. Some of our students are being denied the national examination because they don't want to take the survey. The Ministry of Education, I think somebody would have said they released a copy of the survey, and it showed to be, nothing untoward what we're talking about and so on.
but
But we
but
are not
can I say that
making that point.
the
Yes, go
point
ahead.
is, though, that there was a reverend on here who had some of the questions, that a young man used his phone to take some of those questions, and he's going to the media with it. That there
Right.
were some questions that were inappropriate for children.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, what is happening is that they're they're releasing some information, but they're making up the information and releasing it to make the people believe that that nothing was wrong with with the interview. But you're attempting to interview children who are minors. That's against the law. You cannot interview a minor. You cannot give a minor a survey to do and question that minor in the absence of an adult, the parent, a guardian, or a legal representative. You can't do that,
Hmm.
right? This has never been heard of in Trinidad and Tobago. Yet a parent went to a Catholic school in Trinidad and Tobago, and she was denied to enter the room with her daughter because they wanted to question her daughter by herself.
Hmm.
Where are we going? Where are we
Yeah.
going?
Yeah.
All right. The other issue is I would have questioned the manager of Roland RIK, and I asked him. I said, "Let me ask you a question." I said, "We have an issue with the books actually coming in here and landing on your shelf. All right, it should not be there. But let me paint this picture for you. So one of these books, right, that has very explicit sexual images inside those pages. All right, it's a pornography book. If you open it and you look at it, it's a pornography book.
What's the
All
age
right,
range? What's the age?
eight 8 to 10 years.
Wow, and it's a pornography book at RIK
Yes,
in Trinidad.
yes. So I asked one of my members, that's Rajesh. I
Hmm.
asked him to go to RIK and, find out what's happening with those books and so on. See if you see the books on the shelf. Because when we got the photographs, we saw one of the stickers, RIK stickers on the books. So when he got there, he was speaking to the young lady, and the young lady was telling him, well, yes, we have the books and so on. So yeah, I was asking her, where are the books? She said, we have it at the back. She said, well, why you have it at the back? It's for children, not so. Why not at the front? She said, because of the contents of the book. So immediately they recognize that the content of that book is inappropriate for the age group, for the children. That's why they don't have it in front, but you have it at the back. So an adult comes. So the manager went through the whole array first. He said, well, we don't sell, adult material to children. When children come in the store with the uniform on and so on, we tend to look at them. We tend to pay attention to what it is they're looking at, doing, and what. And if they come to purchase any material that is adults, not their age bracket, we would not sell them. Okay, so I say, okay, I agree with that. I agree with that because you have a clientele, all right? And your clientele varies. You have adult clientele and so on. Some of these books stores, when you go into them, you see the Kama Sutra line of books. It's behind the counter. Nobody can touch it and interfere with it, all right? So it's really, well organized and packed away. So I said, so don't all come to buy this book. So you take the book out from the back and you push it across the counter, right? On the cover of that book says that this book was published for 8 to 10-year-olds. The contents of the book, which is inappropriate for that age bracket. Inappropriate. Very explicit, very sexual. So you're looking at this adult. Aren't you wondering in your mind who this adult is buying that book for? Are you not inquisitive to ask that adult, who are you buying this for? Where is this book going to? Who is going to read this book? All right. And the other course of action that you should be taking is to call the police and report it to the police because this individual, this adult, is buying a book for 8 and 10. He's not buying it for himself because he's not 8 and 10 years. Obviously, he's buying it for a child. And that book could be used or is being used. Let me use the right terminology here to sexually orient the young ones. All right. That's what the books are being used for. That's what the books are being used for. All right. They're grooming the young ones with these books. It's a grooming tool, and grooming is a crime in Trinidad and Tobago. So here it is.
Hmm.
RIK is 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 is, is implicating themselves in a crime because they are aiding and abetting in grooming of our young children. Custom and excise, they too are responsible. They too are guilty because they're aiding and abetting in a crime that these materials will be used to groom our younger boys and girls. This is the
Wow.
gateway to pedophilia.
It
It is
is
the
pedophilia.
gateway
It is,
to
it is
pedophilia.
pedophilia. It is pedophilia, not even the
Yeah.
gateway, Umar. It is pedophilia. And and this is I commend the first wave for bringing this out, and I think we need in Barbados need to go and check the bookstores. I believe
Yeah.
that in every Caribbean islands, that's a lesson that we learn here. We need to make sure that come Monday morning or tomorrow, that we're in the bookstores and checking everything, because with this Pride Month, it seems that they're using that as a time to begin to unleash everything on the children.
Well, they're gonna have a
So
pretty hard time in Trinidad. I'm gonna
you
tell you
know
that.
this is I agree with you, Sharia, and this is Sharia Alexandra. It's enraging. It's enraging, and that's what we're saying. We're saying no to all of this pedophilia. We're saying absolutely no to gender confusion, no to transgender education. We're saying no to the over sexualizing of our children. Absolutely no. In this region, no. A resounding no. A resounding no from the lesser islands, or whatever, lesser Antilles, the greater Antilles, whatever you want to call us. You
Marcia,
understand,
I tell you something.
Umar?
I tell you
Yeah.
this. Marcia, our children, that's the prize. That's the trophy that they want. It is our children. And we cannot give it to them. Under no circumstance can we give it to them. And I would have spoken to some of these parents whose children was chosen to do this test, to do this survey. All right? I want you to understand me here. I want you to follow me clearly, carefully. Follow me. And tell me when, if ever I lost you, I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to catch up. All right?
Right. We have 5 minutes left.
Right. So let me try to take my time as well. The parents whose children was selected, they were
Mhm.
contacted via email and told to come, in some cases, at the school to collect the form, etc., and sign the consent forms, etc., etc. Some of the parents signed it. They called me. They said they're sorry they signed it. I said, well, don't send the children to take the test. They can't do anything. All right? Just don't send them. But anyways, when we asked the parents, because we got suspicious of something, all right, because of what one parent told us. And we started to ask all the parents the same question about their child and if there's any common denominator between all these children. And
Mm.
there was, Marcia. But here the other question. How did the Ministry of Education know that these children had more or less the same common denominator? How did they know that? Who gave them that information? The parents didn't give it to them. No, the parents didn't give it to them. They would have probably gotten it from the principal or the teachers in the school. Wouldn't they have?
Mm.
Or,
So you're
or,
saying, you're thinking
or
they're
perhaps
profiling the children?
exactly that's what they're doing. That's the criteria they're using to select these children. That's the criteria. And they have 5 clinics in Trinidad that have their selected. We have the booklet on it. We have the booklet. Anyone who's played ball and want me to, I'll send it to you. All right. 5 clinics that they've selected where they are using these clinics to treat with these children in whatever way or form that they want. They want to experiment with our children. That's what they want to do. And the parents are signing away that right and giving it away to these devils.
Mm.
To these devils. That's what they're doing. And I'll
Mm.
make one last point before we leave, Marcia. The
Yes.
Muslims are celebrating Eid ul-Adha, right? It's a very, very sacred, special occasion for us this time of the year. Where the first 10 days in the month of the Hijrah, this is the holy month where Muslims go and perform the pilgrimage to Mecca. All right. We are celebrating Abraham, our father, our prophet. All right. And he was ordered within this period, he was ordered to sacrifice his son. The Christians knows this story. You all know the story.
Mm-hmm.
He was ordered to sacrifice his son. And when he was about to sacrifice his son, because of his show of faith and resoluteness in his belief in Almighty God told him, give him a substitution, which was the ram, and he sacrificed the ram instead. This time, we are being asked to sacrifice our children. Similarly, like Abraham was asked to sacrifice his. But the difference between Abraham and us, Almighty God asked him, the devil is asking us to sacrifice our children.
Mm.
Right? We are not going to do it. And there's a ritual that is performed in the Hajj where the Muslims, they gather pebbles and they gather stones and they go to the Jamrock and they stone the Satan, they stone the devil. All right? They stone the devil. All right? It's an act of worship. They stone the devil. All right? Because of the temptation and the evil and the wickedness of the devil, right? During the period where Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son and so on. Because he was tempted. All right? When that is what we need to do now. We need to stone the devil. Right? I mean, not literally stone the devil. I mean, stone anybody.
But yeah,
Right? But what I'm
yes.
saying, right? We need to gather our pebbles and gather our stones and go to these places where the devil resides. And we have to stone them. We have to stone them. And this is figuratively, of course.
Figuratively, because
stone
we're
them.
not advocating violence.
Yes.
But
We have to
you
stone
know,
them.
Umar, I'm leaving. We're ending on such a very somber note. To be honest with you, Umar, it's almost like things have escalated since you were last here. And I'm glad that you have someone that is, so resolute like yourself and your entire first wave movement team, and and also the reverend who was on, Bishop Gill, that was on as well. And I think it would be good to connect with him because I know you work with everybody. This is some TT response.
We've did a lot
Yes,
of work with TT Response. Yes, we
yes,
did.
TT
Yes.
response, and to really come together on this issue here. And I tell you, I'm hoping as it heats up to be able to fly over to Trinidad to give you support. Yes,
Yes,
and
we love that. We love that very much. I am going to be calling on all the religious heads and all the heads of different organizations, civil society, and so on to come and meet me there. Let's collaborate. Let's join our forces, and let's tell the Ministry of Education what we expect of them. And I've always said it, Marcia. The First Wave Movement is not here to remove any government. We are not a political organization. We're here to ensure the government does what is right. We're here to call them to account. All right? We have no problem in you remaining in power and occupying the offices and so on. But when you use those offices to oppress the people in your country and to deny the people in your country, then we have a problem.
yes,
Right? So we're going to give you an ultimatum. We're going to ask you to sign an MOU. All right? I've discussed this with my lawyers already. We want the Ministry of Education to sign an MOU. The government of Trinidad will sign an MOU, the First Wave Movement, indicating certain things that they're not going to introduce this into the schools. They're not going to sign the pandemic accord, and they're going to stop and halt the injections, etc. A number of things. And we are saying to them that if you don't do this, we are not moving from in front of the Ministry of Education.
right.
We're
and
staying
and,
there
and that is
until
the kind that is what is needed throughout
yeah.
the region. I believe on Saturday, Omar, in the Bahamas, they too are making some legal declarations and presentations and proposals to their government as well. So it's a very similar kind of approach. Here in Barbados, we have made a submission to the Constitutional Reform Committee for the inclusion of parental rights within the new constitution. So
Right.
we are all fighting on different fronts.
Yes.
Umar, I just want to thank you so much. As you know, I could talk to you the whole night, but thank you so much, sir. Thanks to the First Wave Movement for the work that you're doing on the ground. You're hitting the pavement, you're working, you're turning up at the schools, you're going to the bookstores, you're exposing, and you don't sit down. And I just want to acknowledge that and to thank you. I want to thank all of those that joined and those that joined us this evening. This has been a very educational show, very informational, very inspirational for the entire Caribbean region. And I'm going to ask you to share this live with someone, share the recording with someone, take it and feel free to cut it up. Feel free to edit it. Feel free to take out pieces of it that you want to share with your friends. This is what we're going to do. We're going to team up as a Caribbean people. We're going to work together. Send it to and throughout the region. Send it to people that you know. Send it to editors and let them cut it up. It's okay. We did this all for free anyway. Our producer, Sherwin, who is here from Trinidad, has done a tremendous job with this virtual rally. And it is for you. Cut it up, edit it, use it in your churches, use it the way you see fit. But whatever you do, get the message out. This is war. This is war. There is a war for our children. And once you have decided that you're going to touch our children, listen, we're coming. We are going. There's blood in our eyes. We're not stopping. We're not stopping. We are resolute. We are resolute. Do not touch our children. Do not touch the children of the Caribbean. Do not touch the children of the Caribbean. That's what we're saying. We're joining with Bahamas on Saturday. We're not there physically, but we're there with them in spirit. And we're inviting you over to Barbados on July 8th, where there'll be a huge rally in the square, in Independence Square, here in Barbados. Come together, guys, and let's work from the epicenter. We believe it's Barbados. God bless you all and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Stay safe. And don't just think about the physical storm that is coming into our region. Think about the moral storm. Think about this storm of the transgender and the sexual orientation thinking, etc., that wants to come in and engulf our countries. Okay, that is what is important. God bless you all. Have a good night.